What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, thanks for coming. Today we got something super exciting. It is my second ever tasting of an Old Forester product, 1920. So pour a dram and let's get right into this whiskey business. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, I'm glad to have you here. Today we are going to be doing something I'm super excited for. We're going to be doing our second ever Decapitation, but this is going to be my first time trying Old Forester 1920. This is the Prohibition style. So yeah, it's going to be my first time trying that, and we're going to be comparing it and putting up against the classic Old Forester 86 here, which I just recently found is one of my go-to daily sippers. I really like it as long as I'm not having something super high proof prior. I think it's a very nice tasting dram. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just beyond stoked. It is a beautiful Saturday out there, and I'm about to go work on my car, so I'm about to enjoy and seize the day after we get right into this fresh crack. You guys have no idea. Everyone knows the hype behind this, so. But anyways, everyone knows the hype. But will it live up to the hype? That's the real question, right? Tried to match the bottle a little bit, you know, keep it matching. Yeah, so let's get this thing cracked, or as we call it on our channel, decapitated. Looks like it's just a little plastic tear thing, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass. People always be struggling with bottles and they cut it out. You know, I appreciate the people that don't cut it out and that show the struggle of sometimes opening a bottle. Shout out to Food Quick. Man always struggles to open the bottles, and I don't blame him. He's a fellow Canadian. I think that they package them differently in Canada. Something's going on there, okay? So yeah, this is super exciting. We're just gonna cut this tape with our fingernail because I clearly need to cut mine. And I want a good cork pop. Are we ready for this? Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style. Cheers. Whew. Sexy. Just a sexy bottle in general, honestly. Yeah, so we'll go to yellow. And today we're using our wee Glencairn glasses because we're doing two. I don't need two large glasses for this. So all these open up. I'm gonna go ahead and read the bottle, and I'll talk a little bit about it. So it says this whiskey is distilled by us only, and we are responsible for its richness and fine quality. Its elegant flavor is solely due to original fineness developed with care. There is nothing better in the market. Seems a little biased, as always. But yeah, this is bottled at 57.5% alcohol by volume, 115 proof. I got this for, I want to say it was $75 for a 750. $75 Canadian. Great deal. Picked up two of those, hoping it lives up to the hype. But I am braced for the the neck pour on this is apparently atrocious, from what I've read on Reddit, people's reviews, stuff like that. The mash bill on both of these is actually the same. The mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. They're aged in new charred American white oak or virgin charred American white oak barrels. There's no age statement on either of them. This is the Prohibition style. It's their third installment from the Whiskey Row series. So the Prohibition style celebrates or remembers the Prohibition era of bourbon. And if you don't know what Prohibition is, because you're a fellow Canadian like me, or you just don't know, Prohibition took place in 1920. On January 17th, 1920, the USA passed the 18th Amendment banning alcoholic beverages. So pretty much the only way you could distill or operate as a distillery is if you were medically licensed. Our boy over here that owns Old Forester was actually one of the 6 few licensed distilleries that were allowed to produce medicinal bourbon. So that's pretty cool. We're actually on the Whiskey Row, so that's where their whole Whiskey Row series came from, is because they were a distillery on Whiskey Row, the famous Whiskey Row. So during Prohibition, all the whiskeys had to be bottled at 100 proof with a barrel entry proof of 100. The Angel's Share would have created a 115 proof whiskey after the maturation. To pay homage to the Prohibition era, Old Forester made the 1920 Prohibition style bourbon at 115 proof to represent the rich flavor that bourbon had nearly 100 years ago. So super cool. Their whole Whiskey Row series is based off of historical events, so I think that's really cool. And as far as I know, I believe I read somewhere that this is the only whiskey company that has created whiskey before, during, and after Prohibition. So super cool. Obviously an OG in the game. And yeah, I feel like this has sat long enough, so it's time to give you some of my notes. Alright, first let's get into the nose on the 86, just because that is a classic for me. Caramel, dark brown sugar, slight dark cherry in there, some oak, rye spice. Definitely is some sweetness from the corn, almost like a dried corn. If you've ever had like a trail mix with the dried corn kernels in it. Cinnamon. Just a nice, it's almost like a fruit cocktail cherry, like from the fruit cocktails that you would give your kids. You peel them open, or you can get them in a can. But the maraschino cherries that are in there, that, or I guess maybe a less sweet version of like the cheap maraschino cherries that you could find at like your local dollar store, as opposed to like the nice cocktail version. Lots of that maraschino cherry though. Very nice cocktail sweet cherry, and caramel just completely stand out. It's a very nice nose. I quite enjoy the nose on that. So now let's jump into the 1920. Okay, it's like a darker cherry. Very much a medicinal cherry. How could I put that? Maybe like, does Benelin make a cherry? If they do, kind of like that, or like a cherry Halls, but a little bit more tame than cherry Halls. But that same dark cherry medicinal note, like a cough syrup, I would say, I guess. And it's not bad. That's not bad. I'm actually getting prevalent cough syrup note, almost like a Oloroso sherry cask finish note. Like I have the Saint Remy brandy Oloroso sherry cask, and I get a very similar nose. This is a little bit more cherry than grape, but that is because it is not brandy. I'm still getting like that brown sugar in there, a little bit less. A little bit less sweetness on this one. I'd say it's more dark. You're definitely getting some dark brown sugar. Cinnamon, still getting the rye spice, not so much corn. The cinnamon is nice. Vanilla. Ooh, I just got some vanilla cherry combo there. You know, I think I'm getting a little bit of peppermint in here. That could be what the medicinal note is cherry combining with this peppermint. It's kind of reminiscent of the Bullet Rye there with the eucalyptus mint type herbal notes you get. It's nice. It's very nice. Overall, I would say this is a lot sweeter, lighter, obviously being a lower proof, and this one is a lot more complex, darker notes, like darker sweetness, darker fruit, all around. I would say that this is more elegant on the nose. Yeah, so let's go in with the 86 first. Cheers. It's nice. Warm, rye spice, predominantly cinnamon. You get that oak, a little bit of bitter oak tannin. You get caramel, brown sugar. You get hints of that maraschino cherry. It's not as strong as it is on the nose, but it is there. It does show up on the palate, and it kind of fades into the finish there. I'd say the finishes with like a nice, very, very faint cherry, vanilla, warm rye spice, and some oak, but not the bitter oak that you get up front on the tip of the tongue. Overall, very nice. The sweetness carries through to the finish, and I would say the finish is about medium length. Viscosity is thin. The mouthfeel, rather, is thin. Doesn't quite coat the mouth how I like my bourbons do. It is a lower proof, but it still gives you that mouth-watering feel. And all in all, for the price, I would say this is a beautiful daily sipper. Now, for the moment I've been waiting for, the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style. First time trying it. Neck pour. I'm trying not to keep my expectations too high because it is a neck pour and I've heard bad things, but I can't help myself, guys. I love Old Forester, and this is the second expression that I'm getting to try, so okay. Right off the bat, nice thick mouth coating feel. It's definitely got a way thicker viscosity. I get fresh cinnamon, like fresh ground cinnamon, little touch of nutmeg, black pepper. You know, a lot of people said this drink's a lot hotter than it is. I'm not finding that right now, though. Okay, so you get those spices that I mentioned, along with a little faint bit of vanilla, and then you definitely get that cherry or sherry note that I was referring to, the medicinal sherry note, right at the tip of your tongue as it washes back over your tongue. That is the predominant flavor that is kind of seasoned with these spices, black pepper, cinnamon, and a little bit of nutmeg, like I said. The finish right now is black pepper, cinnamon, I get a drying mouthfeel, a little bit of oak in there. I get a slight Jim Beam nuttiness towards the back. If I had to pinpoint a nut, I would say pecan, like a warm pecan, like if you were to put the pecans in the oven, toasted, I guess, is what that would be. So toasted pecan. And yeah, if I didn't already say it, along with that cherry note, I'm getting brown sugar. Not as strong as the 86 proof, but it's apparent it's there. Overall, it's really nice. The finish, I would say, is about medium to long as well. Going back on to the 86. A lot lighter, brighter red cherries, sweeter, more approachable, I would say, for sure. Not just because of the proof, but I would say the 86 here is something that you start your night with. You know, your first dram, you open up your taste buds, you get them ready for the punch that your higher proof bourbons are about to deliver, and then you top her up with some 1920. And I thoroughly enjoyed this, even though it was a neck pour. Very much enjoyed it, and I'm super interested to see the type of notes that the 1920 is going to put out on the nose and palate after it has a little bit of time to open up in the bottle. But as far as I can tell, this is going to be a very nice bourbon. If I had to score these two, as far as the value you're getting, if you're someone that really doesn't enjoy a thin viscosity and a bourbon that isn't going to coat the palate, then the 86 isn't for you. Like, I know I tend to savor the bourbon or savor the whiskey more and drink it a little bit slower if it has more of a mouth coating feel. And it's just something I really enjoy. I really enjoy the mouth coating feel, the thick viscosity. It is a game changer for me, but that isn't to say I won't drink things that are thin. It's just when you compare A to B, it's very clear who the winner is going to be, because it's like eating a nice rich piece of cake or a rich delicate brownie versus an overbaked burnt dry brownie. It's like you can't compare the two, even if they have the same flavor profile. The mouth feel is all part of the experience, and part of the way your brain perceives things is based off of the mouth feel as well as the taste. So yeah, it's gonna have a an effect on what you think about the bourbon. In general, I would say 1920, well worth the value of $85. Where I live, that's not that bad for a nice bourbon. The nose on the Old Forester is, on the neck pour, I would say it's like a 77. It's pretty good. It's not too complex. It's got a few notes in there, and I don't mind the notes. The nose on the Old Forester 86, given that it has had time to open up in the bottle, I'm going to give it an 80. I just really like the sweetness, the brown sugar caramel, that cocktail maraschino cherry, all just super super reminiscent of different parts of my life. It kind of just brings them all together, and I really like that about it. And to the palate, I would say Old Forester takes the cake 100%. And when this thing opens up, I expect this to be a beast. But the rating for the palate on the 1920, I would say, is about an 8.5. It is very, very nice mouth coating. The palate on the Old Forester 86, I really like the palate. It's not super complex. It doesn't punch you out. It's very mellow. But like I said, if you're gonna start your night with that, I think it's fair game. I think it's gonna be an absolute beautiful dram if you start your night with that. So the palate on the 86, I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 85 as well. I think it's definitely up there. It doesn't have the mouth coating feel, but the taste is there. Finish, obviously it's going to go to the 1920, having a higher viscosity, thicker viscosity. It's obviously going to stay in your mouth a little bit longer, but I did notice that with the 86, it's more of a mouth-watering finish into a sweet, and with the 1920, it's more of a drying finish, which I think I prefer the sweet finish, even though the drying finish lasted quite a bit longer. I think I prefer the drying finish. So, or I think I prefer the sweet finish. So I'm gonna have to give it a pretty close rating. I think the 86 on finish is probably about a 72, and the 1920 is probably a 71, because yeah, it lasts a lot longer, but I would much prefer something that's going to make my mouth water than make me dry in one another sip. So there is that, but maybe with time that'll change. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, definitely subscribe. I really appreciate it. And leave a comment down below of what you think about these two. And if you think I should pick up any more of the Old Forester products from the Whiskey Row series, I really appreciate any comments. It definitely helps the YouTube algorithm. And I would appreciate any feedback. If you have any, please leave a like. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram. I post every time I upload, and new uploads coming every Sunday starting from this video out. It will be consistent, promise you guys. So as always, guys, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Make good use of the good weather, and stay safe, guys. Cheers.